The little girl stood quietly in the hallway, hugging an old teddy bear that had once belonged to her mother. She looked up at her aunt with worried eyes and asked in a soft voice, Aunt Emma, are we going to lose this house too? Emma froze. She tried to smile, but the paper shaking in her hand told a different story. It was the final notice. Only 3 days remained. The house where they had shared their tears, their memories, and the last pieces of their family could soon be gone forever. Emma quickly folded the paper before her niece could read it. It's going to be okay, she whispered. But deep inside she wasn't sure if that was true. Just 1 year earlier Emma had a comfortable life. She had a steady job, a small home, and enough to live peacefully. Now, her savings were gone. Her car was gone. Most of her furniture had been sold. Even the necklace her late mother had given her was no longer hers. She had given away almost everything she owned. Not for herself. For one little girl who had already lost more than any child ever should. Everyone told Emma she was making a mistake. Some said she should let someone else raise the child. Others warned that she would ruin her own future. But Emma refused to walk away. She made one promise the day her niece became an orphan. As long as I'm here, you'll never be alone. She planned to keep that promise, no matter what it cost her. What Emma didn't know was that the choice she made would change both of their lives forever. And years later, the little girl she sacrificed everything for would make a decision that no one saw coming. When you're ready, I can continue with part 2. Meet Emma. A simple, happy life. Before life tested her in ways she could never imagine, Emma lived a quiet and peaceful life. She wasn't rich. She didn't own a big house or drive an expensive car. But she had everything she truly needed. A steady job. A cozy little home. Good neighbors who waved every morning. And a life filled with simple routines that made her happy. Every Saturday, she would stop by the same bakery on her way to visit her younger sister, Sarah. The smell of fresh bread always reminded her of childhood, so she never arrived empty-handed. Sarah would laugh and say, "You know you don't have to bring something every time." Emma would smile and reply, "I know. I just like seeing everyone happy." Family meant everything to Emma. She had never married, and she didn't have children of her own. Some people asked if she ever felt lonely. She always gave the same answer. "I have the people I love. That's enough for me." Her sister's home was always full of life. There was laughter in every room, toys scattered across the living room floor, and family photos covering the walls. The house wasn't perfect. It was loud. It was messy. And Emma loved every second of it. She enjoyed reading stories before bedtime, helping with homework, and joining family dinners where everyone talked at once. Those ordinary moments became the happiest parts of her week. She never realized how precious they were. Like so many people, she believed there would always be another weekend. Another birthday. Another family dinner. Another chance to say, "I'll see you soon." She had no idea that everything she loved was about to change forever. And when that day finally came, nothing would ever be the same again. Out of everyone in the family, Emma shared the closest bond with her niece Lily. From the day Lily was born, Emma adored her. She was there for birthdays, school plays, scraped knees, and bedtime stories. Whenever Emma visited, Lily would run to the front door before anyone else could answer it. "Aunt Emma!" she would shout, throwing her arms around her. It became their little tradition. No matter how busy life became, Emma always made time for her. Some Saturdays they baked cookies together. Other weekends they spread a blanket in the backyard and made up stories while watching the clouds drift across the sky. Lily believed her aunt could fix anything. A broken toy. A bad dream. Even a rainy day somehow seemed brighter when Emma was around. Emma never tried to replace Lily's parents. She simply became another person Lily could always count on. One evening, after reading her favorite bedtime story, Lily looked at Emma with sleepy eyes and asked, "Will you always be my aunt?" Emma smiled and gently tucked the blanket around her. "Always," she answered without hesitation. Neither of them knew how important that promise would soon become. Looking back, Emma would remember those simple moments more than anything else. The hugs, the laughter, the tiny hand reaching for hers during walks. They seemed so ordinary at the time. But they would soon become memories she would hold on to with all her heart. Because in just a few short days, The little girl who had always run into her arms would need those arms more than ever before. It happened on a quiet Sunday afternoon. Emma was at home finishing a cup of tea when her phone suddenly rang. She smiled as she reached for it, expecting it to be her sister. Instead, it was a stranger. The voice on the other end was calm, but the words made Emma's heart stop. There has been an accident. For a moment she couldn't breathe. She rushed out of the house without even remembering to lock the front door. The drive felt endless. Her hands trembled as she gripped the steering wheel, praying over and over that everything would somehow be okay. When she arrived, she searched desperately for her sister and brother-in-law. But the faces around her told the story before anyone spoke. Neither of them had survived. Emma stood frozen. The world around her seemed to disappear. Just hours earlier they had been laughing together. Now they were gone. Then she heard a quiet voice behind her. "Aunt Emma." She turned and saw Lily standing nearby, holding the same little teddy bear she carried everywhere. Her eyes were filled with fear and confusion. "Where's Mommy?" she asked. Emma dropped to her knees and wrapped Lily tightly in her arms. She wanted to find the right words. She wanted to tell her this was all a mistake. But there were no words that could take away a loss like this. So she simply held her. And in that heartbreaking moment, without saying it out loud, Emma made a promise to herself. She would never let Lily face this pain alone. She had no idea how difficult that promise would become. But from that day forward, both of their lives would change forever. The days after the funeral passed in a blur. Friends and neighbors stopped by with food, flowers, and kind words. But as the visitors slowly returned to their own lives, the silence inside the house grew louder. Lily barely spoke. She sat quietly, holding her teddy bear, waiting for parents who would never walk through the front door again. Every little sound made her look up with hope. A car pulling into the driveway, a key turning in a lock, footsteps outside. Each time her face fell with disappointment. Watching her niece suffer broke Emma's heart. She stayed by Lily's side every day, helping her eat, comforting her through nightmares, and reminding her that she wasn't alone. A few weeks later, reality arrived with a stack of paperwork. There were meetings, legal forms, and difficult decisions. The biggest question was simple. Who would raise Lily? Some distant relatives said they couldn't. Others said they weren't ready. A few didn't want the responsibility at all. Emma listened quietly. Then she looked at Lily, who was sitting beside her with frightened eyes. She didn't need more time to think. "I'll take her," Emma said firmly. The room fell silent. One relative frowned. "Emma, you're single." Another shook his head. "You've never raised a child." Someone else added, "This will change your whole life." Emma nodded. "I know." Then she reached for Lily's hand. "But she's family. She doesn't need perfect. She just needs someone who loves her." Lily squeezed Emma's hand as tightly as she could. For the first time since losing her parents, a small smile appeared on her face. A few days later, Lily walked into Emma's little house carrying one small suitcase and her favorite teddy bear. That was all she had left of the life she once knew. Emma knelt beside her and smiled gently. "This is your home now," she said. "And no matter what happens, we'll face it together." Neither of them realized just how difficult keeping that promise would be. Because the hardest part of their journey was only beginning. At first, Emma believed love would be enough. She told herself that if she worked hard, planned carefully, and never gave up, everything would somehow fall into place. But reality had other plans. The bills began arriving one after another. There were funeral expenses, school supplies, clothes Lily had quickly outgrown, doctor visits, food, electricity, the mortgage. Every envelope that landed in the mailbox seemed to bring another expense. Emma sat at the kitchen table late one night with a notebook, adding the numbers again and again. No matter how many times she counted, they never worked. She picked up extra hours at work whenever she could. Some days she left before sunrise and didn't return until it was almost bedtime. She was exhausted, but the moment she opened the front door, she greeted Lily with a smile. "How was school today?" she asked, pretending nothing was wrong. Lily happily talked about her teachers and new friends, never noticing how tired Emma looked. When money became even tighter, Emma quietly started making sacrifices. She stopped buying new clothes for herself. She skipped little treats she once enjoyed. If there was only enough food for one good meal, she made sure it was on Lily's plate. Whenever Lily asked, "Aren't you hungry?" Emma would smile and say, "I already ate at work." It wasn't true. Many nights she went to bed with an empty stomach. Then came the day she knew she had no other choice. She stood in her driveway, staring at the car that had carried her through so many years. She gently ran her hand across the hood before handing the keys to its new owner. Watching it drive away felt like losing another piece of her life. But when she returned home, Lily rushed over with a drawing she had made. It showed the two of them holding hands beneath a bright yellow sun. At the top, in large uneven letters, Lily had written, "Me and my hero." Emma smiled through her tears and hugged her tightly. In that moment she realized something. She wasn't giving things away. She was giving Lily a chance to smile again. And as long as that smile remained, Emma was willing to sacrifice even more. Weeks turned into months. Emma worked harder than she ever had before. She took every extra shift she could find. On weekends she cleaned houses. In the evenings she accepted small jobs from neighbors just to earn a little more. She hardly had a moment to rest. Still, it wasn't enough. One afternoon, another letter arrived. Emma opened it slowly. Her hands began to shake. If she couldn't make the next mortgage payment, the bank would begin the process of taking the house. She quietly folded the letter before Lily came home from school. That evening, she smiled through dinner as if everything was normal. She asked Lily about her day. She laughed at her stories. She even helped with homework. But after Lily went to bed, Emma sat alone at the kitchen table. The house was silent. She looked at the stack of unpaid bills and covered her face with her hands. For the first time since taking Lily in, she let herself cry. Not because she regretted her decision, but because she was terrified she might fail the little girl who trusted her more than anyone else. Without realizing it, Lily had woken up after hearing a noise. She quietly walked down the hallway. When she reached the kitchen, she stopped. She had never seen her aunt like this before. Emma was trying so hard to hide her tears. Lily didn't understand everything. She didn't know about mortgages or overdue bills. But she knew one thing. Her aunt was hurting. Slowly, she walked over and wrapped her small arms around Emma. "It's okay, Aunt Emma," she whispered. "I'm here." Emma looked down in surprise. She quickly wiped away her tears and hugged Lily as tightly as she could. "I'm sorry you had to see that," Emma said softly. Lily shook her head. "You always make me feel better when I'm sad." She smiled through sleepy eyes. "So, now it's my turn." Emma's heart broke and healed at the same time. She realized that even after losing so much, Lily had never lost her kindness. But neither of them knew that someone else had been watching their struggle from a distance. And what would happen next was something they never expected. The next morning, Lily couldn't stop thinking about what she had seen. For the first time, she realized that Aunt Emma wasn't just taking care of her. She was carrying a weight far too heavy for one person. Emma still smiled every day. She still packed Lily's lunch. She still helped with homework and read bedtime stories. But now Lily noticed the little things she had never seen before. Emma wore the same old coat every week. She skipped breakfast almost every morning. Sometimes she sat quietly at the kitchen table, staring at a pile of papers before quickly putting them away. Lily didn't fully understand what those papers meant, but she knew they made her aunt sad. One afternoon at school, the teacher asked everyone to write about the person they admired most. Some children wrote about famous athletes. Others chose movie stars or firefighters. Without thinking twice, Lily wrote about Emma. She described how her aunt always smiled, even when she was tired. How she never complained. How she made every day feel safe after the worst day of Lily's life. When the teacher read the essay, her eyes filled with tears. After class, she gently asked Lily, "Does your aunt know how much you love her?" Lily smiled. "I tell her every night." That evening, Lily walked into her room and reached for a small piggy bank she had been filling for years. She poured the coins onto her bed. Then she added the birthday money she had been saving to buy a new bicycle. She counted every coin carefully. It wasn't much, but to her it was everything. She placed the money into a small envelope and wrote 3 simple words on the front. "For Aunt Emma." The next morning, Emma found the envelope waiting beside her coffee mug. Inside was every dollar Lily had, along with a folded note written in careful, uneven handwriting. You always take care of me. Now I want to help you. I don't need a bicycle. She simply didn't know how much longer she could keep everything together. The teacher left that afternoon with a heavy heart. She couldn't forget what she had seen. The next morning, she spoke with the school principal. Soon other teachers wanted to help. Then parents heard the story. Neighbors began talking. One by one, people who had never met Emma started asking the same question. What can we do? Within days, groceries appeared on the front porch. A local mechanic repaired Emma's old car without charging her. A nearby grocery store gave them food. Someone paid Lily's school fees for the rest of the year. Then came the biggest surprise of all. The bank manager called Emma and asked her to come in. Her heart sank. She feared the worst. Instead, the manager smiled and handed her a letter. Several members of the community had quietly worked together to help save her home. The overdue payments had been covered. Emma stared at the paper, unable to believe what she was reading. She whispered, "Why would strangers do this for us?" The manager smiled. "They're not helping strangers. They're helping a woman who never stopped putting a little girl first." Emma walked out of the bank with tears of relief. For the first time in many months, she felt hope. But the greatest reward for her sacrifice was still waiting in the years ahead. And it would come from the person she loved most. The years passed more quickly than Emma ever imagined. The little girl who had once clung to her teddy bear was growing into a confident young woman. Lily was no longer the frightened child who asked if they were going to lose their home. She worked hard in school. She earned good grades. She never forgot the sacrifices Emma had made for her. Every time she succeeded, she remembered who had made it possible. Emma still worked long hours even after life became more stable. She always put Lily's needs before her own. When Lily suggested taking a vacation together, Emma would smile and say, "Maybe next year." But somehow next year never came. There was always another bill, another expense, another reason to wait. Lily noticed. She also noticed that Emma's hair had begun to turn gray. The woman who had once seemed able to do everything now came home more tired than before. One evening, Lily found the old wooden box Emma kept in her closet. Inside were small treasures collected over the years. Family photographs, birthday cards, a faded drawing of two people holding hands beneath a bright yellow sun, and an old envelope. On the front, written in a child's uneven handwriting, were the words, "For Aunt Emma." Lily slowly opened it. Inside was the note she had written years ago, along with the few dollars she had tried to give Emma. Emma had never spent a single coin. Tears filled Lily's eyes. She finally understood something she had been too young to see. Emma hadn't made sacrifices because she expected anything in return. She had done it simply because she loved her. That night, Lily made a promise to herself. Just as Emma had once made a promise to protect her, she would now do everything she could to give Emma the life she had always deserved. And she already had a plan. A plan she would keep secret until the perfect moment. A few months later, Lily graduated at the top of her class. As she walked across the stage to receive her diploma, the first person she looked for in the crowd was Emma. There she was, sitting quietly in the last row, clapping with tears in her eyes. Emma wasn't thinking about the sleepless nights, or the extra jobs, or the things she had given up. She was simply proud. After graduation, Lily worked harder than ever. She found a good job, saved every dollar she could, and refused to forget the promise she had made to herself. Whenever Emma asked why she worked so much, Lily would just smile. "I'm saving for something important." Months turned into years. Then one sunny afternoon, Lily knocked on Emma's front door. "I need you to come with me," she said with a big smile. Emma laughed. "Where are we going?" "It's a surprise." They drove across town until they stopped in front of a small, beautiful house. Emma looked confused. "Why are we here?" Lily reached into her bag and handed Emma a small envelope. Inside was a single key. Emma looked at it, puzzled. "What is this?" Lily smiled through tears. "It's yours." Emma shook her head. "I don't understand." Lily gently took Emma's hands. "You spent years making sure I always had a home. You gave up your dreams so I could chase mine. You gave me love when I thought I had lost everything." She paused, trying to hold back her tears. Now it's my turn. Emma slowly looked back at the house. I bought it for you. For a moment she couldn't speak. She simply stood there, staring at the key in her hand. Then she wrapped Lily in the biggest hug of her life. I never wanted anything back, Emma whispered. I know, Lily replied. That's exactly why you deserve it. As they stood there holding each other, Emma realized something she had never allowed herself to believe. Every sacrifice, every tear, every sleepless night, every difficult choice, none of it had been wasted. The little girl she had chosen to save had grown into the kind of person who would never let her stand alone again. Emma stood in the doorway of her new home, holding the key in one hand and Lily's hand in the other. For a long moment, neither of them said a word. They didn't need to. Everything that had happened over the years, the pain, the fear, the sacrifices, and the love, was reflected in the tears they shared. Emma slowly looked around the house. It wasn't the biggest. It wasn't the most expensive. But to her it was more beautiful than any place she had ever seen. Not because of the walls. Not because of the furniture. But because it was built on something money could never buy. Love. That evening they sat together on the front porch, watching the sun slowly disappear behind the trees. Just as they had done years ago when Lily was a little girl. Lily smiled and asked, Do you remember the promise you made to me?